Steve Peterson with Infinity Investments, and welcome to our channel where we talk about all things commercial and investment real estate, particularly best practices for investors, agents, brokers, and developers. And today we're talking about 1031 exchanges, and it's May 10th, 2021. And the powers that be are discussing, once again, it's not the first time, but they are discussing getting rid of the 1031 exchange. A bit, I would say rule, but ability to defer your capital gains taxes when you are selling your investment property. Now, this has been discussed several times before, and I think with enough encouragement that they will back off of this. So I think for any of us that are interested in the business, we know how vital 1031 exchanges are. And I think particularly to the small entrepreneur, the small investor, the big league institutional investors are always going to find ways to maneuver around and get the best possible tax advantage situation. However, I think the people that get hurt the most if this were to go through is the small mom and pop operators, or not even just mom and pop, but the non-institutional folks who are out there doing deals. And these deals are so important to the economy at large that we need to keep the 1031 exchange option of deferring your capital gain taxes in motion. So I think for all of us who are interested, we need to be writing letters to our respective, government offices and letting them know that we do not want this eliminated. And I think no matter what's your political background, Democrat, Republican, Independent, this is one that I truly think should be nonpartisan as an effort to continue this ability to defer capital gains taxes. It's so important. So this is, if you're active in the business from whatever vantage point, you should get involved in reaching out to someone and letting them know how you feel on this matter. All right. That being said, the meat and potatoes for today, we're going to be talking about the difficulties of the 1031 exchange. And primarily, the number one thing, my experience, is the identification period. As you know, and if you don't, from the day of close, when you sell your relinquished property, and the lingo for it is your down leg, but when you relinquish the down leg property, from that day forth, you got 45 days to identify. And that's calendar days. Don't count Christmas, Thanksgiving. That all gets wrapped up into there. And in the identification process, you've got the easy way is you can identify up to 3 properties that you're going to purchase. There's also the 200% rule, which goes into much more detail. And I will do another video just on the 200% rule. But the simple basic way that most of us are going to identify is the 3 property identification rule. So you have up to 3 properties that you can identify on or before that 45th day. And you got to midnight, that not 12:01, but you have until midnight to submit your replacement property identification forms to your qualified intermediary. So a couple of key things in regards to this. The whole topic of today is just the identification period. A couple key things to remember here. Number one, you need to set your 1031 exchange up prior to close. Don't get to the day of close trying to set this thing up. It is possible if you do like the day before close, but the day of close, you got to try to catch them before they record it. It's chaos. Take a step back. Make sure you got this process dialed in really weeks before close. So when it's closing time, your 1031 company, the qualified intermediary, the company that handles the 1031 has all the documentation into title, into closing. So you set your exchange up prior to close, because if you close and you ain't set it up, done deal. It's called constructive receipt. You cannot exchange anymore. So as we're talking about this identification process, the number one thing you need to do is set up the exchange with the QI before you close. And I'm going to say at least 2 weeks before you close. That way you can only deal with the craziness that's going to pop up in your escrow. You don't have to worry about the 1031 craziness, right? You got enough to deal with, whether you're the agent, whether you're the investor. All right. Second thing, when you're identifying property, all right, I think it's really, really important. We talked about the technical aspect of getting it all set up and everything. Now, this is where the fun begins. You've got to have a definite investment criteria. You need to set this investment criteria down. Write it out, spell it out. What's your rate of return? What in that rate of return world, what's your cap rate? What's your cash on cash return that you're looking for? What's the internal rate of return that you're looking for? Are you looking for value-added properties? Are you looking for fully stabilized properties? Are you changing a property type? Are you going from multifamily to single tenant, triple net? Are you staying with the same property type? All right. Also, what markets are you willing to invest in? Where do you not want to go? A lot of people in the Bay Area have been looking at investing out of the area, also investing out of the state. Some people only invest in their backyard. So by you having that written down, broken down, that's then going to guide you as you navigating through finding the replacement properties. And it's always tough. Even if it's a buyer's market, which hasn't been for the last few years, it might be transitioning to that in commercial, but it's not fully there now for sure. Even if it is, though, it can be a challenge because the whole basis of doing this 1031 exchange is for you to acquire a better asset. It is not, and I repeat, it's not for you to defer taxes. The deferral of tax is the cherry on top. That's not the reason you're doing it. The reason you're doing it is that when you sell this down leg property, the relinquished property, you want to acquire a better property, a property that should be making you more money, or in an area that's going to be poised for more growth, or is a newer property, has less maintenance to deal with. So you're selling this property so that you're moving on up in the world. That's the whole goal of this. The deferral of taxes, which is why we have to fight to keep this in motion, is the cherry on top that really makes it worth your while to go through this difficult process. And it is difficult. That's why we're talking about it. All right. So you got to set that investment criteria, though, so you're just not throwing mud against the wall. And that when you identify those properties, you have selected what you really think is going to be a better asset. All right. So write that investment criteria down. Be specific. The next thing, what I would say in this identification process, is now you need to be aggressively, with your investment criteria and your discipline intact, you need to be aggressively going after properties that are obviously listed. Hopefully, if you're an investor, you're working with, this is where you really can utilize the assistance of a broker that is out there pounding the pavement, working obviously on deals that are on the market, but also working on deals that are off the market. A lot of stuff we do for our clients is obviously we're aware of what's on the market, but we're calling in our selected areas where we have a criteria. We're cold calling them. We're sending out direct mail pieces to them. We're doing, in many cases, ads to the marketplace saying, hey, that we've got a 1031 exchange buyer. We're looking for this type of property. So we put the full pedal to the metal in this, search for properties. And then, pedal to the metal in terms of making offers, being aggressive. And it doesn't necessarily mean pricing like doing lowball offers. But I say being aggressive, going after the properties, and maybe making a letter of intent before you have everything in tow. Obviously, you want to have all the financials and everything before you make an offer in general, but you might be going back and forth, and if your clock is ticking or is it beginning about to tick, you might have to send a letter of intent in there before you get ready. So that's the key for you to do what you need to do. So I hope these three things are helpful to you. First of all, set your criteria. First of all, set up your exchange, set your criteria, and then be aggressively start making offers. You need to do this in order to complete your exchange. I hope this was helpful. If it is, throw me a like, subscribe, and best of success in your investing career. Thank you.